Hello everyone, we are Ivan Rodriguez, Lariana Núñez, and Jose Gonzalez, and we are going to talk about A Scandal in Bohemia by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The story begins when the famous London detective Sherlock Holmes is talking with his friend and companion John Watson and receives a visit from a man with a mask, who is actually the King of Bohemia. He asks for Holmes' help retrieving a very valuable set of photographs. The king is engaged to a Scandinavian princess, but is worried that the princess's family would disapprove of his previous relationship with a young American opera singer named Irene Adler. Mrs. Adler has evidence of this relationship, namely photographs of the two of them together, and has refused to return them to the king. Holmes is the king's last hope of retrieving the photos. Holmes agrees and invites Watson to join him. Setting: when does the action of the story A Scandal in Bohemia take place? The Scandal in Bohemia is set in March 1888, for Watson visits 221B Baker Street on 20th March 1888, where he is present when Holmes is presented with a new case. Now, to continue with the analysis of the story A Scandal in Bohemia, let's talk about the characters. Holmes and Watson. The stories are narrated by Dr. John Watson, Sherlock Holmes' good friend and companion. That means that everything the reader knows about the world of Sherlock Holmes is coming from Watson's particular perspective. By now, Sherlock Holmes is so famous he barely needs an introduction, but for the sake of 19th century readers, Doyle goes on a length about Holmes' unique characteristics. Watson describes Sherlock Holmes as a man with a bohemian soul, unconventional and out of touch with society, buried among his old books and alternating from week to week between cocaine and ambition, the drowsiness of the drug, and the fierce energy of his own keen nature. King of Bohemia. Holmes's new client arrives wearing a mask and introduces himself as Count von Gramm, a Bohemian nobleman. Of course, this is a disguise, and Holmes sees right through him. The fact that the client has gone to great lengths to make his identity a secret speaks to his high social status and fear of being accused of impropriety. He is a proper man with proper upbringing, a man of dignity, but also of shame. He prides his good name and his privacy, and will go to great lengths to protect them. Irene Adler. To Holmes, the beautiful and cunning Irene Adler is simply the woman. Holmes admires her wit and cleverness. He offers her the distinction of being the only woman to ever have met his match. Irene Adler is a trained actress and as good as putting up a disguise as Holmes himself.
Themes. Feminist themes. The main theme of A Scandal in Bohemia is how Irene Adler defies Victorian ideas about women as obedient, helpless victims who are dependent on men for happiness. In several ways, Adler proved herself as a resourceful and empowered individual who makes her own way in the world, all while outwitting a king and the best detective in England. A career woman. Many middle and upper-class women during the Victoria period did not have careers, but depend on their husbands to support them financially while they raised children and managed the household. However, Adler, as a single woman, not only had a career singing opera, but was once the prima donna, best singer of the Imperial Opera of Warsaw. She is highly successful and continues to perform at London concerts. She apparently makes enough money to live in a small but elegant residence. Empowered in love and marriage. One source of irony in A Scandal in Bohemia is the difference between the two marriages in the narrative. The King of Bohemia has been born into fairy tale wealth and privilege. He is about to marry a Scandinavian princess, which many people will find invaluable. Meanwhile, Iron Aller marries Godfrey Norton in a plane wedding, probably in every clouds. The couple doesn't even have a witness. They have to grab Holmes, who is disguised as a horse groomer. Despite the king's vastly superior wealth and social rank, however, he is not free to marry for love, which is presumably why his relationship with Eller ended while he was a prince. As a king, he is forced to choose a bride from a royal background. Intelligence, not force. In a scandal in Bohemia, major male characters use forms of force and illegal impatience to try to get what they want from Abler. Similarly, Holmes staged a fake fight in Adler's streets as she exits her carriage, hoping to physically intimidate her so he can pretend to rescue her. He also instructs Watson to throw a small rocket into her house, which is an illegal and aggressive form of manipulation. However, Aller managed to prevent both parties from succeeding using her own intelligence and force rather than force or criminal action. Later, the king tells Holmes and Watson, "Did I not tell you how quick and resolute she was?" Masculine traits. Adler displays qualities that Victorians believe were masculine in nature. The king tells Holmes and Watson that he has the soul of steel and the mind of the most resolute of men. She also dresses as a man to gather information anonymously. She does this regularly, probably because the walking clothes are more comfortable than Victorian concerts and dresses. Adler's personalities and actions prove that, despite what her hustlers stablemen say, she is not simple, the daintiest things under a bonnet on this planet.
Dialogues. Most of the dialogues are Holmes interrogating someone to decipher something, as in the page 7 wherein which says, "Was there a secret marriage? None. No legal papers or certificates? None. Then I fail to follow, Your Majesty. If this young person should produce her letters for blackmailing or other purposes, how is she to prove their authenticity?" Other aspects are flashback and foreshadowing. Flashback is a scene that is used to recount events happened before the story's primary sequence of events. An example of this in the story is, "It was 6:15 when we left Baker Street." On the other hand, foreshadowing is what the writer uses to give an advance hint of what is to come later in the story. For example, a letter written by the King of Bohemia that said, "Do not take amiss if your visitor wears a mask." It is foreshadowing because at the moment the letter appears, the writer is unknown, but later we know that it was the King of Bohemia who wrote that. Finally, tune and mood. The tune expresses the feelings of the author to the topic and to the audience. The tone in A Scandal in Bohemia is mystery, awe, and education with an air of suspense. The mood refers to the atmospheres of the literary work. It is what the reader feels at the moment of reading the piece. We can appreciate that the mood in this work is of suspense and mystery, accompanied by the intrigue of knowing how the case will be solved.
This was everything. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Thank you guys.